Jaya Kunja Bihare Gopi Jana Vallabha Jaya Giri Varadare Jaya Giri Varadare Jaya Yashodhanandana Jaya Bhajajanaranjana Jaya Yashodhanandana Jaya Bhajajanaranjana Yamunatiravanachare Jaya Kunja Bihare Jaya Kunja Bihare Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihare Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihare Jaya Radha Gokulananda Radha Gokulananda Radha Gokulananda Shri Radhe Jaya Sitaram Lakshman Hanuman Jaya Sitaram Lakshman Hanuman Jaya Jaya Prabhu Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna. My obeisances to all the devotees here. Thank you for this opportunity to speak for my own purification and for the service of the devotees. So we're reading from Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 2, Chapter 8, text number 24. The chapter of the title is Questions by King Parikshit. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Sarvametajcha Bhagavan Prichato me nupurvashaha Tattvator hasyudahartam Prapanaya Mahamune Sarvametajcha Bhagavan Prichato me nupurvashaha Tattvator hasyudahartam Prapanaya Mahamune Sarvametajcha Bhagavan Prichate me nupurvashaha Tattvator hasyudahartam Prapanaya Mahamune. No, I tried it. Prapanaya Mahamune. Prapanaya Mahamune. Ladies. Sarvametajcha Bhagavan Prichato me nupurvashaha Prapanaya Mahamune Sarvametajcha Bhagavan Prichato me nupurvashaha Tattvator hasyudahartam Prapanaya Mahamune Sarvametajcha Bhagavan Prichato me nupurvashaha Tattvator hasyudahartam Prapanaya Mahamune. Thank you. Word for word translation. Sarvam, all these. Etat, inquiries. Cha, also that I have not been able to ask. Bhagavan, O great sage. Prichata, of the inquisitive. Me, myself. Anupurvashaha, from the beginning, tattvataha, just in accordance with the truth. Arhasi, may kindly be explained. Udadharatam, as you will let know. Prapanaya, one who is surrounded. Mahamune, O great sage. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. O great sage, representative of the Lord, kindly satisfy my inquisitiveness in all that I have inquired from you and all that I may not have inquired from you from the very beginning of my questionings. Since I am a soul surrendered unto you, please impart full knowledge in this connection. Please repeat after me. O great sage, representative of the Lord, kindly satisfy my inquisitiveness in all that I have inquired from you and all that I may not have inquired from you from the very beginning of my questionings. Since I am a soul surrendered unto you, please impart full knowledge in this connection. Purport. The spiritual master is always prepared to impart knowledge to the disciple, and specifically when the disciple is very inquisitive. Inquisitiveness on the part of a disciple is greatly necessary for the progressive disciple. Maharaja Parikshit is a typical disciple because he is perfectly inquisitive. If one is not very inquisitive about self-realization, one need not approach a spiritual master simply to make a show of discipleship. Not only is Maharaj Parikshit inquisitive concerning all he has inquired about, but he is also anxious to know about what he has not been able to inquire. Factually, it is not possible for a man to inquire about everything from the spiritual master. But the bona fide spiritual master is able to enlighten the disciple in every way for the disciple's benefit. Verse again. Sarvame tachcha bhagavan prichate me nupurvashaha tattvatorhasyudadhartam prapanaya mahamune. O great sage, representative of the Lord, kindly satisfy my inquisitiveness in all that I have inquired from you and all that I may not have inquired from you from the very beginning of my questionings. Since I am a soul surrendered unto you, please impart full knowledge in this connection. Om Jnanatimidandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurmilitam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhaktivedanta Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Vitale Shmati Shri Ram Swaminti Namane. So this is a very nice chapter. It's just Parikshit Maharaj asking questions from Shukadeva Goswami, the whole chapter. And I think we're coming to the end. Yeah, approaching the end. One thing that I find amazing is that Parikshit Maharaj asks so many questions in one go. I don't think he had a notebook. And then Shukadeva Goswami just hears all the questions and he just answers them all. And it's just incredible, their mental capacity to remember all of these things. And of course, Shukadeva Goswami doesn't answer each question in one verse. He's answering them over a long span of verses, over the whole Bhagavatam. It's just incredible. He asks about 30 different questions here, all very different topics, or quite intricate. And then even after asking so many different questions, he says, and if there's anything that I haven't covered, then please answer that as well. So it shows the mood of a disciple. And Srila Prabhupada focuses on that point in the purport of inquisitiveness and how inquisitive we are. So, what is the role of a disciple? One of the roles of a disciple is to ask questions from the spiritual master, to learn from the spiritual master, to inquire submissively, and to hear from the spiritual master. So if we find that we haven't got any questions, I can't think of anything, then that is a problem. And Prabhupada even says here that if you haven't got any questions, then you don't need a spiritual master. So if you haven't got any questions, if you don't want to know anything, if you're not inquisitive, if you're not desiring to learn, then there's no need to accept a spiritual master, because that is his function, to enlighten us in spiritual knowledge. Recently there was questions and answers with my spiritual master, Srila Sri Ramaswamy, and they sat down. It was in Mayapur, I don't know if you were there, Eddie Guru, it was on the podcast. So they sat down and Guru Maharaj said, okay, does anybody have any questions? And there was a kind of like a pause, and nobody like shot their hand up. And he said, whenever I see that people don't have questions, to me it means they're not reading Srila Prabhupada's books. Because if we're reading Srila Prabhupada's books and we're exposing ourselves to these topics, then naturally we're going to be trying to understand it. We're going to be reading and thinking, well, how is that? And how does that work? Or what is this detail? Or how do I apply it into my life as well? So if we're enthusiastic to be Krishna conscious, if we want to come closer to Krishna, then naturally we'll have questions that we want to ask from our spiritual masters. This point that Parikshit Maharaj says here, that please tell me what I haven't asked as well, reminds me of one instance with His Holiness Radhanath Maharaj, that sometimes we experience that someone may say something to us, oh, you know, don't do that, Prabhu, you know, or why are you like that? Or somebody comes up to us, Prabhu, I need to talk to you for a minute. Or maybe an authority comes to us, Prabhu, and we need to talk, come after lunch. We're like, you know, shaking until lunch, and then what are they going to say to me? No, but somebody's complained about you, they've been saying this and they've been saying that. And often our reaction is to be defensive, think, you know, well, actually, in that situation, you know, it wasn't actually they had already done something. Somebody else had already said something to them, and it wasn't quite what I said. I didn't mean it like that. We become defensive. Radhanath Maharaj was saying that if somebody comes to you and says, Prabhu, you're rude, or you're loud, or you're not chanting properly. I've had that a few times told to me, you're not chanting properly. Then what we should say is, thank you. Thank you very much for helping me. Thank you for taking the time to say that. Thank you for taking the risk of saying that to me, because I could possibly punch you in the face if you annoy me. And actually, especially if it's a conflict where somebody is angry with us and they're like, you know, why are you like that? Or why are you doing that? Or don't do that. Then we say, I'm sorry. And this is what you're seeing is just this tiny speck of all of the bad qualities that I have. It's just a speck of all of the anarthas I have in my heart. So don't be surprised if I do something wrong or if I offend you, because I'm very sinful and very fallen, and I'm just trying to keep it together. So thank you for showing that to me, and please tell me more in the future. You know, I'm here, I'm open, and help me advance in my spiritual life. It just reminded me, this thing that Parikshit Maharaj is saying, tell me about this, tell me about creation, tell me about Krishna's pastimes. And anything else, tell me everything, tell me anything you know, because I can't even think of the questions. So, you know, I'm a blank slate and I'm here ready for you to tell me whatever you can. And I wouldn't say that this is the only aspect of being a disciple, the only aspect of discipleship, but it's definitely an important aspect. What's a famous verse from the Bhagavad Gita describing about, I don't want to use too obvious words, going to a spiritual master and asking questions? Adiguru, you know the answers. We want some more junior devotees answering the questions. Did anybody hear that? Anybody else? Jaina Taifuri. Yeah, okay. Tadvidi pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya upadakshanti te gyanam gyaninas tatvadashinaha. So just try to approach a spiritual master, inquire from him submissively, render service unto him. So not just inquiring submissively, but also rendering service. A disciple's mood is also to render service to the spiritual master. When I joined the movement, Madhusudan Prabhu, who was my Varma Padaj guru, the first devotee that I met on Oxford Street, gave me a book. I think he's the first devotee I ever saw, actually, as far as I remember. He was the personal servant of my spiritual master at that time. And I got to experience what it was like for him to just serve, and see him serving my spiritual master. I had one opportunity to stay in my spiritual master's house in New Vajradam. When I got second initiation, he was like seeing if I was ready for second initiation, like had me there close to test me before, because they recommended me, but they was like, is he ready or is he not? So I got to stay in the house and see how surrendered you have to be to actually be a personal servant. And I remember Madhusudan Prabhu telling me one time that he went into Guru Maharaj's room, and Guru Maharaj said, no, this is not how you should be, this is not how you should act. I need you, when you come in, just to be a blank slate, a total blank slate. You come in, you haven't got you're not thinking about, I want this, how much sleep have I had, when am I going on holiday? I don't think that was even a question, when am I going on holiday, but probably how much sleep have I had is the main issue. When I'm going to eat, that's probably going to happen sometime, but you go into the room with the spiritual master. As a disciple, you're a blank slate, and he'll tell you, what he wants you to do, when he wants you to do it, how he wants you to do it. It's not easy. It's not an easy thing to do, and even if we're not personal servants of our spiritual masters, how many personal servants of a Diksha Guru can you have? One every few years. And I had that desire always to be my spiritual master's personal servant, never really manifest, I wasn't qualified for that, but we want to be the servant. We want to be the servant of our Guru. We want to serve them and please them. But we all are servants. We all have that relationship also with our initiating spiritual masters, if we have an initiating spiritual master already. And we need to develop that mood of being a blank slate. If we don't, or if we can't, then I would say also there's no point accepting a spiritual master. If you're not ready to be a disciple and you're not ready to just surrender and say, okay, I'm ready to do what you think is the best thing for me, don't accept a spiritual master. It's better you don't, because you'll just make offenses. Guru Ravagya. The Guru will say, do this, and you'll say, yeah, maybe not. Maybe I could do that. Just like Prabhupada. Prabhupada was in India with his disciples. They were on the train, traveling through India. They'd stop at the train station. He was sitting, taking prasad, talking to Prabhupada. It's so nice being with Prabhupada. Can you imagine driving in the same train carriage as Srila Prabhupada in India? For these American disciples, never been to India before, how exciting, seeing the culture of India. And Prabhupada says, oh, this is a nice place. Get off the train. Go and open a temple. Can you imagine somebody saying that to you now? Quit your job. Move to Zimbabwe. Go open a temple. Your Guru phones you up in the morning on the way to work. Haribol, my obeisances, Guru Maharaj. Get on the plane. Go and open a temple. Would we do that these days? That would be outrageous. The GBC would complain about the spiritual master, but that is being a disciple. That is how we're here right now, right? If it hadn't been for the 6 disciples of Prabhupada who surrendered their lives and came to England with absolutely nothing, they couldn't even live in the same place together when they came. They didn't have a place to live. They were living in different parts of London, meeting up. Then we wouldn't have this wonderful facility that we have now. So whether we are a personal servant of a spiritual master, or whether we're a disciple, or whether we're an aspiring disciple of a spiritual master, then we all have to cultivate that mentality of kinkari. What can I do? So this is the name of some of the younger gopis, I believe, kinkari, some of the manjaris. And it just means kim, what? Like Kim Purusha. They're like monkeys. And the name of them in Sanskrit is Kim Purusha. What kind of person is that? They're not like a person, they're like a monkey. Kim Purusha, that's the name of them. So kinkari. Kara means to do. And kim, what? Kinkari, what can I do? How can I serve you? What do you want me to do? Direct me. Show me. Parikshit Maharaja is saying, I don't know. I'm trying to come up with questions so I can benefit myself, but I don't know all the questions. I don't know what I'm even supposed to ask. So you tell me what to ask if I've missed anything out. Now, how can I serve you? Srila Prabhupada said that this is the only question that he ever asked his spiritual master. So in one sense, that's the essence of all questions. That how can I serve you, Gurudev? What can I do? What would please you? I've had quite a few, I'm so fortunate, I've had quite a few exchanges with my spiritual master. I got to live in Hungary for 10 years, so he was there quite a lot and had different interactions. And when I was preparing for class, a few came to mind. Generally of me not satisfying my spiritual master, of learning, how to try and improve. One time, I did actually get to be his personal servant just for a few days, just for one weekend. We were preaching in Turkey. I had the good opportunity to take part in the preaching that was going on in Turkey. They would send me there sometimes. And this time they sent me there. I was staying at Nrsimha Krishna Prabhu's house, who's basically in charge of all the preaching in Turkey. And Guru Maharaj was coming, and I was the devotee who was going to look after him, cook for him, wash his clothes, stuff like that. So it was probably the most intense weekend of my life, and it was constant chastisement from my spiritual master, constantly. And the worst bit was, I was getting chastised and chastised and chastised. Everything I did, well, not everything, there were some good things. There was some encouragement, but basically it was kind of like ripping the skin off your bones, it was very intense. And then the worst bit was, he said, I don't want to be chastising you all the time. I want to be, saying nice things and encouraging you, but the way you're acting, I just have to, correct you. And I'm sure that's because I'm especially fallen and spaced out. What did he say to me at one point? Then he said, "You're like a burnt out hippie, but you're not burnt out." It was like, I asked Shambhi Haipu a few years later, I told him about it. I said it was heavy. He said, yeah, it's normal. When you get close to the fire, he said that's what it's like. But anyway, it was interesting. It was good. I've found in encounters with my spiritual master that when you get chastised, when you get I think chastised is the best word, not corrected. It's kind of, I don't know how to explain it exactly, but it brings you very close to your spiritual master. It humbles you, and it's because we wouldn't say all of that to everybody, right? You're not going to go up to somebody and say, as devotees also, if sometimes we're here in the temple room, say we're in japa period, somebody comes down, plonks themselves in the middle of in the temple room with their back straight to Prabhupada, they're chanting japa and their beads are halfway over the floor, some new devotee comes, I don't know if you experience it, but I experience it, that when it happens, it's like, I'm trying to chant my japa, I was like, oh God, I've got to go over to that person and tell them, don't sit with your back to Prabhupada. It's like, I'd rather just chant my japa. And you don't know what they're going to say. They're going to like get annoyed, and it's like, I'd rather just chant my japa. And I see that also with, I think I'm losing the point of what I was saying. What was the point I was making before I diverse? Yeah, being chastised. Maybe I'll just stick to that. So being chastised is so much mercy, actually, and it's so much blessings, because it means that your guru is accepting you as a disciple. And it means that he trusts that you can take that as well. So although it may be painful, and although it may be difficult, being chastised is very good. It's very good for a disciple, especially if you're not humble, like more. So it's said that one should always feel a fool in front of one's spiritual master. And if you're not feeling a fool in front of your spiritual master, then if your spiritual master is kind to you, then he'll help you feel a fool in front of your spiritual master by pointing out that you are a fool. In comparison to your spiritual master, you are a fool. And if you think that, actually, I know better, which we can think when you're with your spiritual master may do this or do that. You may think, actually, it would have been better if he'd done that. Or he's sitting in his class, is like, well, I could have done better than that. I could have answered that question better than that. These things naturally come up in the mind. What is that saying? Familiarity breeds contempt. Exactly. If you're with the spiritual master, then you have to be very careful. That's often why it's a good idea not to spend too much time in the close proximity of your spiritual master, because it's just natural. I saw some quotes Mother Urmila put the other day, and devotees had made an advertisement for Srila Prabhupada, for one program with Srila Prabhupada. And they were saying, this man has changed the world through his teachings of Krishna consciousness. And they'd used the latest, I don't know, whatever it was at that time, method of design to make this advert, make it very cool and attractive. Put a lot of effort into it. And they took it to Prabhupada and they gave it to Prabhupada. He saw, this man has changed the face of the world. He said, you should not call the spiritual master a man. And he gave it back to them like this disgusted face. So just tiny little things, even maybe there was not any intention to minimize Srila Prabhupada, but just a lack of education, or one has to be very careful. And if one's with the spiritual master and spending a lot of time with them, also with devotees in general, we spend time with devotees, like what the devotee snores every time in the brahmachari ashram. I experienced that with Shambhi Hari Prabhu as well. We were on book distribution in Norway, traveling all around Norway, and we would be sleeping on the floor in some hostel or somebody's house or something. As soon as he hit the yoga mat, he would start snoring, straight away. I don't know how he did it, immediately. I would wake him up, and then he went and slept in the bathroom every day. He said it was warmer in there anyway. So we become familiar with devotees, we become familiar with the spiritual master, and we should be very careful. I also experienced that also this issue of vapu and vani, but associating with the spiritual master, being with the spiritual master, getting the benefit of the spiritual master. We know that vani is higher than vapu. So somebody tell me what vani is. It's not Srinivas Prabhu, Jainatai Prabhu, or Adigiri Prabhu, or you two senior Vaishnavas. Yeah, tell me.
Vani is instructions.
Yeah, and vapu? Well, not exactly.
There's two forms of association, one by his instructions, Vani, one by his personal presence.
Yeah, vapu is like the personal form, presence of the spiritual master. So both are important, and neither should be neglected. If your spiritual master is in town, then you should go serve, offer service and do what you can. But we should understand that we can't be with the Vapu all the time, especially in ISKCON. Spiritual masters are generally nowhere around us unless we live where they are. The Vani is much higher, and we can always associate with that Vani. I personally experience with my spiritual master that I feel closest to him when I'm reading his books. I just feel, I don't know, I can feel his presence, I feel that I'm with him, I feel like I'm associating with him. And I experienced in Hungary sometimes that he would be right there, but I didn't feel really connected, I didn't really know what to say. There were other devotees who were kind of like, able to associate and talk and, interact. I was just kind of like watching. My spiritual master was right there, but I didn't really feel like connected necessarily. But I may be in, 5,000, 10,000 miles away, but I'm reading his books and I feel, I'm with my spiritual master, I'm interacting, I'm serving him, I'm engaged in his service. So Vani is always there and more important than the Vapu. But we should also understand that it's not all about a Diksha Guru. I don't believe that Shukadev Goswami was the Diksha Guru of Maharaja Parikshit. As far as I know, he was his Shiksha Guru. And we know in the line, in our disciplic line, that it's a Shiksha line, it's not a Diksha line. So we have Srila Prabhupada, his Diksha Guru was Bhaktivedanta Saraswati Thakur, whose Diksha Guru was Gaurkishore Das Babaji. But Bhaktivinoda Thakur wasn't the Diksha Guru of Gaurkishore Das Babaji, right? They were more like associates. Gaurkishore Das Babaji would hear from Bhaktivinoda Thakur. And I don't think Bhaktivinoda Thakur took initiation from Jagannath Das Babaji, right? Prabhu's, I think it was just a Shiksha relationship. So, as I mentioned, our Diksha Gurus, they're generally, we see them when? Once a year, probably. Most devotees see their Diksha Gurus around once a year. That's like probably average. But what else is happening the rest of the time? We're getting Shiksha, we're hearing. And who are we hearing from? So many different devotees. So all of the devotees who are surrounding us, anybody who's giving us guidance, anybody who's teaching us about Krishna consciousness, they are our spiritual masters. And they are very important spiritual masters actually, because they are dealing with us day in and day out. Hare Krishna. And we shouldn't minimize that. Yes, we're hearing from our spiritual masters, whether they're here or whether they're not here, they're giving classes, or we're reading their books, or we're listening to their lectures, or we're writing to them and receiving letters. But if it's not for the association of other devotees that are around us and surrounding us, Shri Radha Gokulananda Ki Jai, then where would we be? It's said that the Bhakti Lata, the devotional creeper that's within our hearts, it's nourished by what? What do we water the devotional creeper with? Not sadhu sangha. Yeah, Shravanam Kirtanam. That's the water that we water the devotional creeper with. That has to grow. It has to grow all the way back up to Goloka Vrindavan. So we're constantly hearing from devotees, right? Some devotees are giving class, or devotees are leading kirtans. Or even if it's not giving class, it can be a few words here or there. Somebody says something, or we may be disturbed or in a particular situation, and some devotee, we ask the advice of devotees. I remember Mohan Prabhu in Hungary, like he was in a particular situation, and he thought, I'll go to 3 brahmanas and ask them their advice on this, and I'll take it as Krishna's direction, what he says through them. So we say that to devotees, right? Or it may be our wives. We speak to our wives about something, reveal our mind, talk to them about it, or our friends. This is all shiksha. This is all the principle of Krishna consciousness, the essence of Krishna consciousness. Krishna speaking through devotees to guide us back to Him, to help us on the path back to Godhead. So we should be very grateful to the devotees that surround us, that help us in our Krishna consciousness and guide us, and not neglect them. He said a Kanishta Adhikari, he understands about Krishna, but he neglects the other devotees. And it's usually the same with the spiritual master as well. He's my guru. I'm a disciple of stamp them on the chest. I'm a disciple of His Holiness, whoever it may be. I'm his disciple, he's my guru. When he comes, I shave my head. Yeah. When he comes, I put a dhoti on, if I can still remember how to put it on. I'm there at the program. I look clean, tidy, and organized. The rest of the year, who knows where I am. My guru comes and I'm right at the front, As soon as he steps out of the car, I'm the one giving the garland. What about the rest of the year? Where are you the rest of the year in the Bhagavatam class or the morning program or book distribution or Harinam or taking responsibility? That's a Kanishta Adhikari. When my guru comes, I'm fired up. Is that what your guru wants? Your guru doesn't want some personality cult. That's how my spiritual master says it. No. They want us to take responsibility and push on Krishna consciousness. And that means engaging all of the time, not just when our spiritual masters are here. So we hear from everybody and we should be grateful for that. When it comes time for us to leave our bodies, maybe if we're lucky, our spiritual master may be there or maybe on the phone, but you guys will be here, We'll be, if we're really lucky, the devotees will be there, visiting us in hospital, bringing us prasadam. So if we appreciate that who we're surrounded by, who is guiding us, who is giving us friendship and love in our Krishna consciousness, then maybe they'll be there for us also when we need it. There's a very nice verse that I managed to just nab at the end before class. I did learn this one before. Govinda, do you know this one? It's Sanatana Goswami speaking to Haridas Thakur, glorifying him, saying how you're a good example. Perfect, yeah, that's right. Chaitanya Charitamrita Antilila 4:103. There's one previous to that as well. So this is Sanatana Goswami speaking to Haridas Thakur. Open. Won't open. Anyway, the English is... Oh no, here we go. The first, do you know the one previous to that, Govinda Haru? Yeah, that's right. Apane achare keha na kare prachara, prachara kare na keha na kare na achara. Some behave very well, but do not preach the cult of Krishna consciousness. Whereas others preach, but do not behave properly. And this is the... Of course, I won't open it now. And this is the other one. Achara prachara namera kara karaha duikarya. Tumi sarva guru tumi jagatera arya. So achar means what? Yeah. And prachar, not Ribhampuri, anybody else? Prachar, it's almost the same in English. Preaching, yeah. Nachar prachar namer kara ha duikarya. You simultaneously perform both duties in relation to the holy name by your personal behavior and by your preaching. So Sanatana Goswami is saying to Haridas Thakur, you are preaching Krishna consciousness, you are giving Krishna consciousness to everybody, prachar, but you're also acting as a devotee. You're doing both. You're setting the example and you're also teaching others. Tumi sarva guru, tumi jagatera arya. Therefore you are the spiritual master of the entire world, for you are the most advanced devotee in the world. So I was thinking also that, being an inquisitive disciple is extremely important. Hearing from the spiritual master, we spoke about that. Serving the spiritual master, rendering service, being open to doing that, doing whatever service the spiritual master wants, that's also very important. I'm just summarizing here. But then also not just the spiritual master, because when do we see them? We can associate with their vapu when they're here, but we also associate with their vani. But we're also associating with so many devotees and getting the mercy of so many devotees, hearing from so many devotees. But also, what is the real preaching. One devotee said a really good thing in Hungary one time, Atula Krishnapuri, in class. Oh, was it in class he said it? No, it wasn't in class. It was to me personally. He was my mentor for a while. And he said this thing, I thought it was so good. He said, it's very easy to be Krishna conscious when you're sitting on the Vyasa-san, spouting philosophy. Yeah, I'm so Krishna conscious. I have my phone here. It's got so many verses in it that I can read out. This is the truth. You should do this. You should be like this. Very easy to be Krishna conscious on the Vyasa-san. He said, but when you're at home and you're in the kitchen and your wife is shouting at you, then how Krishna conscious are you? How are you going to react? How much can you control your mind? How much can you react in the right way? And whether you're married or whether you're not, or whether it's the kitchen or whether it's the living room, it doesn't matter. Being on the Vyasa-san, preaching is okay, but what is your achar in your private life when there's nobody around, you've got your phone in your hand? How are you chanting your rounds when you're at home? Is your phone switched on or is it switched off? How are we chanting our rounds? How are we acting with the people that we know the best? What is our achar? How are we acting? And I was thinking this about also one devotee recently, one of my close friends, Prabhakar Prabhu, he left his body in Hungary. So we were very close. My wife's close to his wife. Our children, Madhusham, who was just here, he's like 2.5 months younger than Prabhakar Prabhu's son. So our wives were pregnant at the same time with our first children. Children are born almost at the same time. They were growing up together in Hungary. We would go on book distribution together to different places. He was my Shiksha guru for a while. And he just left his body in Hungary. He's the same age as me. And he got diagnosed with brain cancer about 6 months ago. First time, and then he's already gone. So my spiritual master said when it came out that it was not only terminal, that it was just spread everywhere and there was just no hope really. He said on the podcast, he said he's a pure devotee and he's going to go back to Godhead. So what better preaching is there than that? Going back to Godhead. So Prabhupada Prabhu, he was a very nice devotee. He was a humble devotee. He wasn't a big anything in one sense. He was a pujari, he was a book distributor, he was very humble, servant of the devotees. And very humble, would always serve in whatever way he could. He would never win the marathons. He wasn't a Diksha guru or a sannyasi. He was a grihasta. He had a family. But now he's with Krishna in Krishna's pastimes in the material world, according to my spiritual master. And we're here. But what better preaching is there than that? How much faith does that instill in us that I was standing side by side with him on book distribution. We were in the pujari together. Sitting in the same car with him, driving to Sweden. So I see, this person, he was with me, he's gone back to Godhead. And it gives me faith that, I can go, if I do the same thing as he did, which is, you don't have to be Srila Prabhupada, you don't have to be Keshava Maharaj or Shivaram Maharaj or, the temple president, that anybody can go, then what kind of achar and what kind of prachar is that? So if we're just humble servants, if we just take part in ISKCON, normally serve the devotees, then that is the natural conclusion that you'll go back to Godhead. And we see that that's happening with devotees, and if we can just follow in their footsteps, follow their example, we don't have to be the biggest anything. You just chant Hare Krishna and serve the devotees and stick around. Then that is our destination. So, I mentioned a few points about guru, disciple, shiksha, vani, vapu, devotees, things like that. I'll finish there. Does anybody have any questions or comments? It says here you have to ask questions. So, Go ahead. Yes, Prabhu? I don't know your name, but... Tarko Pratishta Shritiya Vibhinnam.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Thank you, Tarun Krishna Prabhu. This point you bring up about a disciple should be like foolish, a blank slate. How do we relate it to being a competent disciple, but at the same time being foolish?
So you said three. You said blank slate, competent, and foolish. How do we reconcile those different things? Yeah, although you may feel like a fool in the presence of a spiritual master, it doesn't mean you should act like a fool in the service of the spiritual master. We feel incompetent. It's like anything in Krishna consciousness. Like I come to give Bhagavatam class, and you think, how am I going to give Bhagavatam class? I'm so incompetent, and I'm in Maya, and I don't know anything. And so these nice devotees say, you think, what am I going to do? But then you just try and you depend on Krishna and pray to Krishna, please, help me serve the devotees, help me do my service, do my duty. So whenever we're serving, we're always instruments of Krishna. And that's all we can be. It's not us. We're not even this body. It's Krishna's body. What can we do with it? We're just using it. So we see that it's not us. We don't try to act like a fool. We just try and maintain that mentality that I'm a humble servant and, I'm open to hearing from you. Like I experience that with my children. It's an interesting thing to see that when you don't hear, when you don't want to hear, then it's very difficult to get anything done. If you say to somebody, I say to my son, okay, put your pajamas on. It's like every day, put your pajamas on. It's like, I'm hungry. It's like, okay, can you just put your pajamas on and then we can eat? It's like, we need to get to bed. We need to get up in the morning and take you to school. If you say something and somebody can hear, then everything goes very nicely. If there's somebody qualified to guide, you have a parent and a child, they know what's best for the child. If the child doesn't want to do it, it's a whole endeavor. It's a whole problem. So we just be open. Doesn't mean we're ready to serve. We try and do our best, but we're just open to hear. And not that we go to the spiritual master and we're like, okay, these are the different options which are, you can choose between A, B, or C, Guru, Be careful which one you choose. It may sound strange, but we all have that in our minds. And I think that example of Prabhupada with the train is enough. Just get off the train with your wife, There's a new life for you from this second. So we should be like that with the spiritual master. When we go to the spiritual master, tell me what to do. I don't know what's best for me. And then he may say, okay, where are you? What are you doing? What's your life? But we should be open. And God forbid not doing what the spiritual master says. I remember one thing I wanted to mention was another of my foolish activities in Hungary. Many times in Hungary I wanted to leave the farm because I was a pujari, full-time pujari, which was really, really difficult for me. And it was just so hard just to keep doing it and just continue full-time. It's pretty intense service to do it full-time, year after year. Sometimes I would want to leave and I would go to my Guru Maharaj, I want to go and do this. And I went one time, I'd spoken to my wife, we want to go, I think we wanted to go to England. And I went and spoke to him. And he listened and he just looked so disgusted. And he was like, I can't remember exactly what he said, but it was he just looked so sad and so disappointed and so disgusted all at the same time. And he kind of just got up and turned away and said, and where is Krishna in all of this? And I just felt so bad. I just given him so many reasons why I should do this and why I should do that and why it would be good for me and, why it's good. And he's like, where is Krishna in this? So then I said, okay, Guru Maharaj, tell me, what you think. He said, I think you should forget the whole thing and carry on doing what you're doing. So I said, okay, I'll do that then. So we have to just, not that we have a whole thing, I want to do this, I want to do that, I want to do this, it's going to be good for me, I'm going to be happy, it's going to work like this. If the Guru asks you, then tell him, and then he'll say, no, it's a stupid idea. Or maybe yes, but I want you to do this, I need this. So many times that's the thing, right? Something needs to be done. It doesn't matter. Maybe you're a book distributor, but you have to become the temple commander because there's no temple commander. Or they're starting a new temple and they need help somewhere. It's like, it's not my nature. I'm not good at it. Never done it before, but there's nobody to do it, so I'll do it. We can't even comprehend the difficulties Prabhupada went through to give us what he gave us. We can't even understand. You know, English wasn't, so many things. English wasn't his first language. He's never been here. Thought he might only have to eat. There's only meat in America when he goes there. He's like half dies on the ship coming here. It's like, how many more obstacles can you think of? It's just. So we should also have that same mood. How can I serve? How can I contribute? What can I give? And then go to devotees. Even if we don't have a Diksha Guru that we can, you know, go to, then we go to some trusted devotee and say, look, this is a short life I've got right now. I don't want to spend my whole life earning money and looking after myself. I want to contribute to Prabhupada's mission. What can I do? You know, I would like to do this, or I have these skills. How can I contribute? Because we all need that. We need that in ISKCON. We need devotees to push this movement on. Sorry, I got a bit excited. Any other questions or comments? Yes.
So we should, many Srila Prabhupada or many acharyas preach a lot about having our spiritual master as the life and soul. But at the same time, they talk about having Radha and Krishna as our life and soul. So how do we maintain this balance between thinking about the spiritual master and thinking about Radha and Krishna, and also thinking about Gaur-Nita and thinking about the Vaishnavas? So how do we maintain a balance between?
Well, I would say that, nice question, I'd say that the ultimate goal is Radha and Krishna, and everything is based around that. The Guru is not something else. He is taking you to them. So he's taking you to Gaur-Nita, he's taking you to Radha Krishna. And it's also an individual thing. Do you want to go to Radha Krishna? Or do you want to go to Krishna Balaram? Or do you want to go to Gaur-Nita? It's like nobody can tell you, nobody's going to tell you, yes. You have to feel it. And that will take time in devotee's life. Yeah, who are you more attracted to? Where is your inspiration? And then your guru is directing you to that. So in the beginning it may be a bit confusing, like, you know, which deity to look at, you know, where there's so many deities here, who do I focus on? But in time, as things get cleared away in the heart, then it's more, then there's a natural attraction. And you just naturally think of them. And the Guru helps you to clear that away. But we approach Radha Krishna or Krishna Balaram through Gaur-Nita. So you can't approach Krishna without going through Gaur-Nita. That's this mission. This movement is Gaur-Nita's movement, with singing and dancing and preaching. And this is Lord Chaitanya's activities. So it's all one in one sense. It's all one line. Guru takes you to Gaur-Nita, take you to Radha Krishna. It's not like there's different things. Where do I go? Which direction? It's all one line, and we go through the spiritual master. The spiritual master is a servant of Radha and Krishna, right? Nikunja Yuno Ratikeli Siddhya, and they're serving Radha and Krishna, engaging in the Sankirtan movement of Lord Chaitanya. So it's all one, but it takes time for that to become clear. Is that okay? Okay. Okay, yes. It wouldn't be a complete class without Coco asking some questions at the end of it.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
I wonder, there were so many amazing points, and I loved it. I loved the lecture. How about the other side? If we, get an instruction and we, execute it, we kind of perform it, and then sometimes as devotees we're not so eager to speak up about it if it's not so sitting right with yourself. Sometimes the instruction doesn't necessarily come from maybe it's conflicting. Like maybe certain, it's not from spiritual master I'm talking about, because I don't have a spiritual master directly instructing me, but it's just like various devotees, So maybe one devotee can tell you, oh, you do this, and then it's not supported perhaps by some other devotees, and sometimes it's just like, what about that?
Yeah, it can be confusing. You mean like, so some devotees tell us one thing, and another devotee says another thing, and it may be difficult you can't do both of them. It may be conflicting.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's confusing. And there's this nice verse, Tadko Pratishta Shrutayo Vibinam. How's the rest of it go? Yeah? What's the third line? Yeah. Yeah, so this verse is saying that dry logic is inconclusive, every Muni, they're competing with each other. The Vedas, it's very difficult to find the truth in there. So it's the Mahajanas, they have the truth in their hearts and they can explain it to you. It's difficult. It's difficult to apply Krishna consciousness. It's very difficult, right? You read the books and but yeah, what do I do right now in this situation? I'm at work, what do I do right now? What do I do in my life? How do I act with my wife? How do I act with my children? How do I act with my temple commander? Right in this second, what do I do? What's the right thing to do? What's the Krishna conscious thing to do? Very difficult to know. So, and there will be situations where different devotees say different things, or there'll be times when devotees tell us the wrong thing. Like I remember one devotee telling me in Hungary, for somebody else it may not be the wrong thing, he said, don't open your heart to your wife because, I can't quite remember what the reason was, that women are so fallen and she'll degrade you or something like that. It was something like that. It was like, don't share, everything. Don't share everything. Keep something to yourself. And I was like, well, that's not going to work because I haven't got time to hang out without anybody else. I need to talk to somebody, so I have to talk to my wife, so I'll talk to her. And that worked well, I actually have an honest, open relationship and communication, and it helps me in my Krishna consciousness. And so sometimes devotees will tell us the wrong thing. And to be honest, I think the core thing for everything is just to be sincere. If you have a desire to be Krishna conscious, then Krishna will help you to fulfill that. If we actually want to attain Krishna, we want to advance, we want to purify ourselves, that's what we need to have and cultivate. And then there will be different obstacles. Devotees have gone through so many things, right? Especially in this UK yatra, it's incredible what devotees have gone through. Their guru's leaving, and they get another guru. That one leaves. It's so many things they've gone through. So there will be many tests that Krishna sends. There will be many tricky situations. Krishna loves putting us in tricky situations. And you're trying to balance the situation. What on earth do I do right now? And I'm supposed to act like this or act like that. So we'll learn from experience. We'll learn from our mistakes. And sometimes we should say to devotees, if they say, you do this, and you say, but you can say it, in a nice way. But if I do that, then this is going to happen, or that's not practical. It's not going to work. Even if it's your authority, you can say that if it's in the right mood, and say, look, what do you think? I'm thinking that maybe that's not such a good idea. And they say, no, you should do it. And okay, I'll do it. But you can communication is so important. That's like asking questions, right? It's communicating that I don't understand this thing, so you explain it to me. So somebody says, do this, and you think it's a bad idea, then say, Prabhu, I'll do it if you really want me to, you're my authority, but I'm not sure it's a great idea because of this. And then you're free of responsibility for it, and yeah. Anyway, there'll be many conflicting, difficult situations to deal with. But if we're sincere, then Krishna will help us, and we'll survive. Survive in our Krishna consciousness. I hope that's okay. We should finish here. It's 8:41. Thank you for your attention. Thank you for all the senior devotees here, tolerating my presence. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Shri Shri Radha Gokulananda ki jai.